Hi guys, welcome to episode 11 of We Built a Gym. This week, slight change up in the fact that it's only me flying solo. No Ben this week due to social distancing and the lockdown and everything. Kind of in a bit of a pinch with that. So until that all ends, you're going to get me 1 week, Ben 1 week, and we'll just keep rotating like that until hopefully this is all over really soon. Because I can't imagine what an entire podcast of just Ben would be like. But we do have the pleasure of being joined by a replacement for Ben. I'd like to introduce you all to Potato Ben. Potato Ben brings about as much entertainment value as the real Ben, and they also have a similar body shape. So hopefully Potato Ben enjoys his first episode with us, and yeah, we'll see what happens with just me on my own. So I've got to do Ben's bits for him that he would normally do. So Ben would always ask you to make sure you like the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, make sure you comment on the video. Those things genuinely help. They improve our algorithm so we get seen by more people. We saw this week in a crazy realization that episode 3, the Acts of Stupidity episode, has got 12,000 views on YouTube. That's crazy. And YouTube themselves, the actual official verified YouTube account, commented on our Instagram post about it, which is quite cool. They had found it on Instagram. We didn't even hashtag YouTube, so I have no idea how they found us. But pretty cool. So this week is entirely audience-led. So I put out a thing on our Instagram yesterday and just said, first 5 questions or so, I'm running with them. So the people that answered first, we're going with your stuff. The first one, everyone just basically, a few people said, give us a brief update. So we're pretty much where we've always been during lockdown, trying to be productive, trying to make great content, trying to keep engaging with people, trying not to go mad, which is proving tough. Ultimately, I think people are right when they say that, what have we got to moan about? That our kind of ancestors, my granddad, went to war and we've been asked to stay home or film content or whatever. So I do get that. And ultimately, I think that it's just a bit of a period of adversity for us all. Adversity provides you with that opportunity to rise above it, to think about something new, to do something new, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to think about what comes next, not sit here and wallow. So yeah, I think ultimately I'm trying to focus on the fact that the strong will survive in terms of business, and we are strong and we will survive. And we'll come back bigger, better than ever. But yeah, getting a bit bored. So, first up, someone asked for there to be a throwback in the episode. Tell us more about the setting up process, because we haven't done that in a little while. And it's a strange realization that I realized 2 years ago today, we were in the exact same position. 2 years ago today, we had a building, but no one was coming in. We'd got the keys a few weeks earlier. We'd cleaned for a few weeks. I've got a video to put in after this. You'll see that 2 years ago today, we were laying the flooring in the gym. So 2 years ago today, we were slugging around all those heavy mats, chopping them. I have to say, it was torture. Tim still has permanent marks on his knees from cutting all the matting. It was a painful time in our lives, and we would definitely pay someone to do it for us next time if we had the money. So yeah, 2 years ago today, had an empty building, laying flooring, same kind of emotions. Feeling a little bit lonely, feeling a little bit devoid of purpose, even though we had this huge project on the go. It's hard to see the bigger picture when you're kind of buried down in the small, fine details. And yeah, wondering where the light at the end of the tunnel is coming from. So yeah, 2 years ago today, we were in a similar position. And I think that's strange for us to be back there. It's strange for me and Tim to kind of be the only people in the building or like ships passing in the night or texting each other, WhatsApping each other, telling each other what we've done today to find out what they're going to do. Like yesterday, Tim texted me to tell me he'd painted some doors and said, don't put your hands on the doors. It's just weird. It's really weird. And yeah, I think sometimes it's hard to remember feeling anything other than what you feel right now. So when you're feeling lonely, it's hard to remember not feeling lonely. When you're feeling sad, it's hard to remember not feeling sad. And that's our focus at the moment, is trying to remember that the good days are going to come back. And that where will we be in 2 years' time? So 2 years ago, we were laying the flooring. Now, 2 years later, in the present, we've been shut by the government for a while, along with every other gym. I always feel like I have to clarify that. It's not just us. We haven't done something wrong. So in 2 years' time, where the hell will we be then? It's weird. Crystal ball thinking. So yes, there's a little throwback for you. Going to chuck in a video of us laying the flooring here, so you'll be able to see, actually it's time-stamped, date-stamped. You'll be able to see that it says the date at the bottom and the time. So yeah, have a watch. Okay, so next up, first proper question that we got was from James King, Big Tall James, who said, how will the coronavirus impact the gym industry as a whole? This could be because James is an estate agent, and I was asking him a few days ago how this will all impact house sales as a whole. So maybe that's what inspired him. Crystal ball thinking again, mate. Really, who knows? I think ultimately the larger chain gyms, those big franchise gyms, you're talking your kind of your Nuffields, your Virgins, your David Lloyds, your Pure Gyms, The Gym, Anytime Fitness, those people, they're going to be all right because they're huge franchises, huge chains, got a lot of support coming from up high. They don't do everything for themselves. They get given marketing material, they get given ideas, they get kind of fed strategies. Whereas the smaller companies are obviously doing that all themselves. So everything you see from us comes from us, the people that you see in it. Smaller companies, I think, are going to struggle because they have less to fall back on. And the longer this goes on, the greater the risk to those companies. I feel really confident that we're going to be fine. I've done the sums, I've done the forecasting, and I've thought worst case scenario, like not being able to open for months and months and months. And in every version of events like that, we're fine because our members are sticking with us, because our community is with us moving forward. And that is a blessing, and that is something we're so grateful for, that maybe a more emotional man than myself would sit here and cry about and shed some tears over it, because it's truly been very touching. We're going to be fine. Even though we are a smaller company. I think really everyone with a USP is going to be fine. Everyone with a unique selling point will be fine because that shines through. You're providing real value. The people that are maybe just a gym, maybe they're going to struggle. And one thought I've had is that recently the industry's been flooded with gyms. It's never been as accessible for people to open a gym. So, and I'm sure some people would say that about us actually, that we're a new gym and how can I say that the industry's flooded? But lots of gyms are popping up everywhere. Like you look at Basingstoke, it's had so many gyms open up lately. Southampton, lots of places and some real quality places, I'm sure. I've never been, but I'm sure they're quality, and I'd never wish anyone to lose their dream because I can imagine how that would feel. And that would suck. So I would never wish that on anyone. But maybe we're going to see a slight course correction where the industry's been getting flooded to less so, and places with USPs will remain and the places less so may not. I wouldn't like to think that's going to happen because I know how that would feel. And ultimately, my belief is that athlete movement is going to be successful forever, regardless of who else is out there. So to me, it's not like I want them to fail so we can succeed. I think we're going to thrive regardless. And actually, I'd rather there be strong competition out there because, it pushes you to do more, pushes you to be better. But yeah, that's my feeling. If I had to look into a crystal ball, that I think, sadly, some companies are going to go under. I know of some already that have. Both gym and not gym related companies. So yeah, it's a sad time all round. But that's my feelings. Next question was, how did we pick our coaches? So for this, I'm just going to go with Shay, Ben, and Amy, okay? And actually the coach that many of you never met before, Jay. So before we opened, me and Tim knew what kind of person we were looking for, both in terms of who they were, their experience, their qualifications, and the level that they would bring. The first coach we hired was Shay. So Shay came on board after a couple of interviews. So we interviewed a lot of people. And one of the criteria was basically that we weren't taking anyone who was fresh off of a PT course and was just going to give out generic PT advice, generic movements. We wanted real knowledgeable people with something about them. So Shay came in. First of all, when Shay sent his CV across, we didn't know if he was a boy or a girl. I don't know if he knows that. I've never met anyone called Shay before. And to my head, I was like, Shay, girl, boy, like Shayla, I don't know. Seamus for a boy. So Shay came on board, unbelievably qualified. And we said, if this guy's personality and, his nature matches his qualifications, we've got a real find here. Shay came in, really chilled out guy, really relaxed environment, and loved it. Some people were coming in and almost trying to flex on us and asking us what we felt about, books from the 70s and stuff that had been written. And we were like, it's not what this is about. This is to find out if you're the right person. And Shay was the right person, came with a huge amount of experience and qualifications, real appetite to do more. Obviously, he brought weightlifting to the table, which was great. He's also a very handsome boy, which, is always lovely to have around, just some eye candy to look at. Shay came on board that way. Normal kind of interview process. Amy came on board because her boyfriend Craig, or fiancé Craig, joined as a member. He came in when we were building the place and said, oh my God, I'm going to join. And he joined there and then. He said, my girlfriend's a PT. And we knew we wanted a female PT to cover that demographic of people who want that. And he said, she's looking for work. Should she send her CV? And we were like, why not? And she sent her CV over, and Amy's positive nature and her kind of spirit came across in her CV. And we said, let's meet her. So she came in, and Amy, contrary to Shay, Amy came in dressed to the nines, looking like she was going on a night out. Which was hilarious. She sat down and we have a chat, and she was a bit guarded at first, and then she kind of opened up to us that she'd had a bit of a rough time with previous places that she'd worked, and that maybe the places hadn't backed her how she'd wanted, and maybe that the places weren't doing as well as she'd been told they were, so there was no clients there for her. And we just really clicked with her. And that's always been the case with Amy. The longer she's here, the more we like her. And she is fantastic. So we kind of were really pleased to bring her on board. And then the final piece of the puzzle wasn't Ben. The final piece of the puzzle was a boy that me and Tim went to school with called Jay. I hadn't seen Jay in a long time. I'd been to uni, moved out, all that. But Tim was still really good friends with Jay. And Jay came in to help us out for testing equipment and stuff one day. And we're chatting to him, and he really impressed us with his passion for the industry and helping people. And he said he'd love to work here, even though it was like an hour drive for him. And we were like, okay, and we talked about it. And then we held an open day for people to come and have a tour, and we asked Jay to come and help us run it. And the way he interacted with people was great. So Jay came on board, but basically when we opened, Jay got a serious injury, and then it turned out that actually he just wasn't up for the commute. And, I don't want to badmouth him in any way because he's a nice guy and Tim's still really good friends with him. But it didn't work out. And we kind of moved on from that. And luckily, about a week later, Ben just came in, said he was moving to the area and wanted to have a look around the gym to see if it was a place he could train. And he came in and we got on really well. And we had a chat, and we were really open with him about what we were looking for in a coach. And it just clicked and it worked. So we asked Ben to come in and have a proper chat, a sit down, send us a CV. Ben kind of came in as a member for a tour and ended up coming on board as a member of staff, which has been fantastic for us. We are blessed to have Shay, Amy and Ben with us, and we are blessed to have them with us moving forward. So we feel very lucky there, but never tell them I said that because I hate each and every one of them. Next question. How long did buying equipment take? Long and short. So we had a long-term plan with equipment. We always knew we wanted loads of squat racks because we wanted it to be rack city like the Tiger song. We always knew we wanted a lot of barbells, that our cardio equipment was going to be ski ergs, rowers, assault bikes, stuff like that. We always knew the theme of the gym. We were working with, again, Faster, as I explained before. We had this great relationship with them and the people that were working there at the time, like Matt and all these just brilliant people. Hannah, like just some amazing people. So long-term plan, we were working with them, coming up with floor plans. They were suggesting things, I was changing them around, and I kind of gave them this thing that I wanted to make, and they said, yeah, we can do that. This is the equipment that you need to make that precisely. So they were fantastic. So long-term, probably 4 or 5 months of working with them and other people and looking at what we wanted and how we would use it. But I've also had a lot of impulse buys. Anyone that knows me knows I'm really impulsive. Like I will just get an idea and I have to do it. It will just bug me. It will sit on me. And anyone that, spends time with me regularly will know I often talk about the same things for 3 or 4 days because I can't get an idea out of my head. And I get a bit neurotic about the fact that I'm like, well, I want to do that idea. So I normally end up doing it. And we've got a few kind of impulse buys that basically aren't used by anyone. But we've got some impulse buys that are used by people. So lots of our strongman kit was an impulse buy and people love that. The main impulse buy that we always talk about is the shoulder rock, like a big mace that you kind of whirl around your head for shoulder health and strength. Basically, I'd always seen it in Chris Duffin, Kabuki Strength's YouTube videos, and I loved it. So I just bought one, and no one uses it. It just sits in a corner and no one uses it. I mean, what does it even do, really? I don't know. So yeah, that's an impulse buy that was a short-term idea and actually a bit of a waste of money. Next question. So we've got a couple more questions left. Let's go. Next question. Who is the number one member? Okay, every time we put this out, every time I put out, like, ask us your questions, the same 5 people send in, who's the number one member? Like, that was meant to be a joke, okay? Yes, I have a favourite member. Yeah, like, that's going to happen to everyone, right? You're always going to have, like, people that you really gel with. But I will never, ever admit it. But I will give you a clue. So the clue is, everyone... So yeah, get comparing key cards. I don't know. But that is your clue. Hopefully that helps you and you can figure it out from there. Next question from Candy. Biggest pet peeves. And I asked Candy to clarify this, in or out of the gym. She said both, so I've got a few of each. And I'm going to be quite honest because I want to rattle through these. Number 1, chalk handprints on the floor. Completely encourage and get the use of chalk, but it's when people are doing like a superset or a CrossFit workout where they're doing like power cleans into burpees over bar, and they want their hands chalked up for the power cleans, and then that chalk goes on the floor. And because we try and keep the place so clean, that really bugs me. And Josh Bailey knows all about that because I often just bring the mop in and put it next to him and go on then. Because chalk, and actually the only thing worse than chalk is talcum powder. Talcum powder does not come out of the floor. Just bugs me. So yeah, that, pet peeve number 1. Pet peeve number 2, people leaving clips like lockjaw collars on the floor. People think that, yeah, I put my plates away, I put the bars away, but I don't have to put the clips away. You do have to put the clips away. So often they end up getting broken because people leave them on the floor, and that bugs me. So what I do with clips is whenever I find them on the floor around the gym, I pick them up and put them in a purple bucket in our weightlifting area. And often people say, where are the clips? There are none over by any of the racks. And I laugh to myself because I think I've tidied them. The other one is camera stands. Again, people are filming themselves training. I get it. I encourage it. They want to send it to their coach. They want to check their technique, their form. They're filming it for a judge to look at. Whatever. I think it's fantastic. But often people don't put the camera stands back. So they'll get like a dumbbell or a plate or a bench or anything to film themselves, and they won't put that back. And we did have someone once trip over a camera stand, actually a safety holder for a squat rack, and they twisted their ankle. So that was a real bummer because they got hurt and that was avoidable. So yeah, that bugs me a bit. Last one for in the gym is when people take it for granted. Because I know everything that went into this place and I know everything that goes into it every day and what's going to go into it in the future. I never take it for granted, but there is a few, just every now and then, a minute group of people who will kind of, not dive into the community aspect. They'll think that they're above it. They'll think that they don't have to share a rack or share a bench. That bugs me, but it's such a minute thing that actually it very rarely happens. When it does, it bugs me. And actually, going back to that awkward conversations and confrontations episode, a lot of the times that I've had to have an awkward conversation, it's been about that. Just making sure that everyone knows what our standards are for community and how we interact with each other. Pet peeve. And then my final pet peeve is out of the gym, just me as a person. I really don't like unmotivated people. And I don't mean that in that, the people that don't get up at 4 a.m. and run 10 miles, because who's doing that? What I mean is people that just have no drive, no goal. I think everyone should be striving for something, whatever it is. And you should have something that you want to work towards and have that motivation. And I think, luckily, we've got a gym full of people like that. So I actually spend a lot of my time surrounded by people really motivated, because I really believe in that thing that you are who you surround yourself with. And if you surround yourself with motivated people, with driven people, with people who are creative, you will become that. You will be that. And that's really important to me, is having motivated people around me. And, like speaking of Ben, real Ben, not potato Ben, Ben can be one of the most motivated people you'll ever meet. Just so driven, so dedicated. And then every now and then he'll just waver for a day or two and I'll kick him in the arse and say no, get back to it. Because him being like that inspires me to be like that, and we can bounce off of each other like that, which is nice. And when he's not, I get furious at him, which I'm sure he could tell. Final question. This, quite a cool one actually. Someone said, tell us a funny story about me and Tim in America. So me and Tim worked at a summer camp in America called Camp Somerset in Maine, kind of northeast America, this beautiful, idyllic place with the most beautiful sunsets every day. We worked on a lake. There was a lake at the bottom of the hill. Me and Tim were there as football coaches, soccer staff. We would have a bunk of kids, kind of 10 to 12 kids that were our responsibility, morning, noon and night. And then when we weren't looking after them, we would be teaching soccer to all the American kids. And basically, funny stories from camp normally revolve around the fact that it was a bunch of kind of 40 or 50, 20-year-old members of staff in a foreign country. So you can kind of imagine what that leads to and the kind of loose behaviour that encourages. So many stories would include all of that, and I don't really want to get into that. Not anymore anyway. But we would have 6 working days a week, 1 day off a week. And luckily our boss was pretty cool, and he would put us with our friends on our day off. So often on the days off, we would end up renting a boat, sitting in the middle of a huge lake with a huge tub full of beers, and 10, 15 of us would just get wasted in a lake and just have a great day. So things like that were always happening. But kind of the funnier side of things, the weirder side of things that I can explain. So there was a night in kind of the second year that we went when we all went to this bar. It was either called Doug's or Bray's. We kind of alternated between two. And they were selling 14-pint pitchers for $20. So me and Tim split one, 7 pints each. And then at the end of the night, these two girls couldn't finish theirs. They had 6 pints left, 3 pints each. So me and Tim drained theirs. And all I know is that I woke up at 4 a.m. on the steps outside my wooden lodge, my wooden cabin full of bloody kids. Sick all over the steps. It's 4 a.m. I've got no idea how I got there, no idea what's going on. I managed to wash down the steps in my drunken state, walk into the bunk, pass out in my bed. I wake up the next morning to my boss, Rob, with this huge bucket of water, and he just pours it all over me, soaks my bed. Basically, I'd slept through my alarm. I was a mess. I was like 20 years old and just a mess. And that's kind of how discipline was handled there. It wasn't the kind of thing where you would like get pulled in for a formal chat or anything like that. It was like, you screwed up, I've embarrassed you, don't do it again. So yeah, that was a silly story. And strangely, given the size difference between me and Tim was absolutely fine. Tim had no hangover. He was up and at 'em the next day, and I was there just an absolute wreck. And then, really, I can only say nice stories because it was just the best time ever. And the funny stories involve stuff I really can't share. But final story, after camp one year, me and Tim went to Canada. We had a family a family of children that were living at camp with us. And they said, look, we live in Montreal. Why don't you come and stay with us? We've got a big enough house. And we'd never been to Canada. So Tim and myself had a chat and we were like, all right, cool. So after camp, we took a Greyhound bus from North America up into Canada to Montreal. They took us to their house. It was enormous. Like, we're talking cinema room in the basement, swimming pool, 6 beds, all en suites, like it was ridiculous. And the family we stayed with, they were lovely. They're called the Lighters. Nikki and Stephen were their kids, who were fantastic kids. And they're basically, when we were with them, they had an older sister called Dana, half-sister, I think, called Dana. She was similar age to us, and she said, like, look, let's go out. I'll get my friends, we'll go out. So we ended up going to this Irish bar in the middle of Montreal. Forget its name, but it was amazing. And we're up there having a great time, blah, blah. And we're sat at these tables, me and Tim next to each other. And basically, I get a tap on my shoulder. I turn around, and it's this Canadian girl, and her friend sat next to her. And she says in her accent, "Oh my God, are you English? Are you British?" I said, "Yeah, we are. Yeah, we're from England." And she said, "Oh my God, with your accent, you could have any girl in this bar." And being a young 20s guy, you're like, okay. So we turn our chairs around and we start talking to them. It's me and Tim and her and her friend. And we're chatting away. And it's going well. And you're thinking like, okay, this is fun. And then out of nowhere, the biggest guy you've ever seen walks up, sits down the other side of her, puts his arm around her, the one I'm talking to, puts his arm around her, and basically goes, "Who the hell are you?" And I put on the most British accent I've ever put on. And I basically said, I go, "Oh, hello, oh, hi, my name's Luke. I'm from Britain, just talking about tourist attractions and what we could do here in Montreal." Just the arse fell out of me. He was enormous, and I'm not small. And me and Tim just kind of looked at each other and turned our chairs around and we're like, "Good night." So yeah, that was that. But yeah, that is it for episode 11. So flying solo. I'm hoping I never have to do one of these again because hopefully we'll be open. Stay safe, guys. Stay inside. Listen to the lockdown. Do whatever they say because hopefully we can be open sooner rather than later. We miss you all. Look forward to seeing you all soon. Bye.